Max Eisenhardt, Earth, 616. Known by many names, Erik Magnus Lehnsherr is a powerful mutant willing to go to any extreme to protect his species as Magneto, the master of magnetism. During his youth, he suffered atrocities at the hands of the Nazis in Auschwitz. After escaping, he learned at the cost of his own daughter's life that he had the mutant ability to generate and control magnetic fields, a condition that caused additional hate and fear from those who were different from him. Being a target for so long and explicitly rejecting the possibility of any harmony with humans, Magneto aimed to conquer the world to enable mutants, whom he refers to as Homo superior, to become the dominant species on Earth. Seeking to subjugate humanity by brute force, he found himself in direct conflict with his former ally, Professor Charles Xavier, and his X-Men, mutants who shared a dream of peaceful mutant-human coexistence. His reputation as an inspirational figurehead and a dangerous threat, as the leader of the Brotherhood and the Acolytes, granted him the rule over the nation of Genosha, until its destruction. Magneto has also had the X-Men as his allies on different occasions, expressing his intentions to try Xavier's way and even his students' perspective, by following Cyclops. More recently, Magneto has rejoined Professor Xavier, ending their longtime feud and helping to establish a mutant nation on the living island of Krakoa. Magneto serves as one of the fledgling nation's most prominent figures, both as part of the Quiet Council of Krakoa and as a hero of mutant kind. Early life. Max was born and raised in Nuremberg, Germany by a middle-class Jewish family. While attending a local school, he became attracted to a young Romani girl named Magda, the daughter of the school cleaner. Max would do things such as craft her necklaces and excel in sporting events to gain her attention. While returning from school one day, Max encountered a Nazi rally and found his uncle Erik beaten and wearing a sign saying that he had shamed a German woman, as he was Jewish, and she was not. Not long after, at a school event, Max won a javelin competition to impress Magda, and the following day was accused of cheating, under the belief that a Jewish boy could not possibly exceed his Aryan classmates. Max was told to either give up his medal or recreate the throw with a regulation javelin. After winning the competition a second time, Max was again accused of cheating, expelled, and beaten by the other children. Escape from Germany. His father Jacob had been a World War I veteran and refused to believe that the nation he had fought for was turning its back on him. Max accompanied his father to see Major Jürgen Scharf, whom he saved in World War I. His father was left waiting for the major and beaten by a troop of Nazis for making trouble in Scharf's office and resisting arrest. After hours of beating, Major Scharf threw Jacob out of his office, stating that the Nazis would have killed him and that they were now even. As things worsened in Germany, Max's father was forced to accept reality, and brought the family to Warsaw, Poland after Kristallnacht. They would not be safe from the Nazis in Warsaw, as the city came under German occupation following the breakout of World War II. The family lived in the Jewish section of Warsaw where the Nazis built the Warsaw Ghetto in October 1940. Max became a smuggler in order to help his family survive. When the Nazis began deporting the ghetto's residents to Treblinka extermination camp in July 1942, Max and his family escaped from Warsaw. On their way to a hideout, they were captured by Nazi soldiers. As they were about to be executed, Jacob saved Max's life by pushing him out of the firing line without anyone noticing. The corpses and Max were buried in a mass grave. Holocaust. Max was eventually found and captured and would spend his early teens imprisoned at the Vernichtungslager extermination camp in Auschwitz, Poland. In 1944, Max witnessed Mr. Sinister and geneticist Joseph Mengele operating at Auschwitz. Max didn't trust Mengele and, consequently, became a Sonderkommando to avoid selection for the geneticist's experiments. Cleaning out the furnaces of the crematoria, he discovered the bodies of his friends who had been selected by the geneticist and turned into monsters. The only member of his family to survive the Holocaust, Max learned firsthand how brutally human beings could treat those they considered different. Max was unable to access his mutant powers at puberty, like most, due to a bout of hepatitis from working in the camp. While in Auschwitz, Max was reunited with Magda and continued to smuggle food and supplies to her. Max saved Magda from the gas chambers and then from execution. As the Sonderkommando revolted, the two of them escaped together. For several years, Max and Magda lived in a Carpathian mountain village, and eventually they were married. They had a daughter, Anya. Not satisfied with the simple life of a mountain village, Max moved his family to the then Soviet city of Vinnytsia so he could better himself. On their very first day in the city, Max consciously used his powers for the first time. Max magnetically hurled a crowbar at his boss who was cheating him of his pay. When he returned to the inn where Magda, Anya, and he were staying, Max saw that it was on fire and his daughter Anya was trapped on the upper floors. He tried to use his newfound powers to save his daughter, but his boss had called the KGB and they beat up Max and held him down, preventing him from rescuing Anya. The child fell, burning to her death, in front of her father. Max then used his powers to destroy the men holding him, the crowd watching, and a large section of the city of Venezia as revenge. Terrified by her husband's powers and overwhelmed by the tragedy, Magda fled, unknowingly pregnant with twins. As Max attempted to bury his daughter, more soldiers arrived after hearing what he had done and attacked him. After being shot in the head, Max forced the soldiers to turn their own guns on themselves. Erik Magnus Lehnsherr. Max, at this point, sought out a forger named George Oudkirk, who was supposed to be among the best, and asked him to create a new identity for him, a Sinti Romani Holocaust survivor called Erik Lehnsherr, so that Max could search for Magda among her own people, but his efforts were vain as Magda actually died in Trancha. Max added Magnus as his middle name and, although many knew of his history as a prisoner, no one knew of his life as Max Eisenhardt. Eventually Magnus traveled to Haifa, Israel, possibly under the guise Erik Magnus. Magnus worked there as a volunteer orderly at a psychiatric hospital for Holocaust victims. It was there Erik first met and became friends with Charles Xavier. Magnus and Xavier frequently debated the subject of mutants' coexistence with the rest of humanity, though neither revealed to the other that they themselves were mutants. While Xavier was idealistic, and believed that humans and mutants could coexist, Magneto's experiences had hardened him, and he had come to believe that humanity would never allow mutants to live in peace. After the two men joined forces to rescue their friend, Gabriel Haller, from Baron von Strucker and his Hydra agents and revealed their powers to each other, Magnus seized Hydra's store of Nazi gold and left for parts unknown, realizing his and Xavier's views were incompatible. Mutant War. For some time after, Magnus attempted to stay on the path of righteousness and used his powers to help track Nazi war criminals. However, while working for one of the Western intelligence agencies, most likely the CIA, the British SAS, or MI6, Magnus was also working for the Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, and instead of turning the Nazis over to his control government after he found them, he was giving them over to Israel for trial. It seems his control knew about Magnus' status as double agent and let him give the Nazi war criminals to Israel, as long as they were Nazis that the USSR had optioned. When Magnus captured and attempted to give Nazi Hans Richter to Israel, agents from the unnamed Western intelligence agency decided to put an end to his activities. They murdered Magnus' girlfriend at the time, Isabel, right in front of his eyes. In a rage, Magnus killed his control and cohorts. What little trust he still had for humanity shattered, he took the name Magneto and began planning his campaign against the human race. Magnus later found himself in Brooklyn, New York, under the guise Michael Xavier, where he had learned that mutants were gathering and hiding from humans in plain sight. Magnus asked the mutant Cassandra Michaels to create his first uniform, believing that with all of the colorfully costumed heroes and villains walking the earth, it was imperative that he do the same to make a statement. After accompanying Cassandra on a date, they were attacked by an underground monster and Magnus entertained the idea of becoming a hero, but after feeling Cassandra was ungrateful, realized that his heart lay elsewhere. At some point, Magneto had an affair with a married woman by the name of Susanna Dane. Susanna bore Magneto a child named Lorna but hid the true parentage of the child from her husband Arnold. Arnold eventually learned of his wife's infidelity and confronted her while flying her and Lorna on a plane. Unbeknownst to her parents, Lorna had inherited her father's powers over magnetism. She was upset by her parents fighting, causing her powers to manifest, destroying the plane and inadvertently killing her parents. Magneto was drawn to the crash site by the magnetic pulse unleashed by his young daughter. Believing she was not ready for the life he had to offer, he had his associate Mastermind use his powers of illusion to rewrite her memories, erasing the encounter and the crash from her memory. Years later, Magneto re-emerged in costume and helmet, designed to shield him from telepathy. He was determined to conquer the human race, to prevent their oppression of mutants, as the self-proclaimed savior of mutant kind. Magneto had also created an orbital space station, Asteroid M, to use as a base and began to assemble his original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. One of his early recruits, Astra, was simply infatuated with Magneto and could care less about the mutant cause, but she left the group under mysterious circumstances before it made its first public appearance. Simply needing powerful mutants in the coming war, Magnus recruited twins for the Brotherhood after he rescued them from a mob of ignorant humans but was unaware that they would one day be presumed to be the children that Magda had hidden from him. Pietro soon wished to leave constantly and Wanda disagreed with Magneto's evil ambitions, but Wanda felt that she owed Magneto her life and Pietro would never leave her side. It was certain at this time that Magneto was in a psychotic and manic state, brought on by a combination of factors, including the overuse of his immense powers. On the anniversary of his liberation from Auschwitz, Charles Xavier, now a professor and confined to a wheelchair, met with Magneto at the site of the camp. Professor Xavier pleaded with Magneto that the actions he would set into motion were no different than what the Nazis did to him years earlier, but Magneto laughed and patronized the professor for claiming to lead mutants but being confined to a chair. Professor Xavier replied that he may have lost the use of his legs but not his heart, something Magneto could not say. After both men reminded each other that they had the power to destroy the other, Magneto left, with Professor Xavier hoping that he would see the error of his ways. Unbeknownst to Magneto, his use of his powers had a negative effect on his mental stability, making his behavior increasingly unstable. The more Magneto abused his powers, the more insane he would become. Attributes. Powers. Magneto was previously thought of being an alpha-level mutant, but has been recently confirmed to be omega-level. He has been stated on several occasions to have been one of the most powerful mutants. He has also been described several times as the most powerful mutant, Earth's most powerful supervillain, even the single most powerful being on the face of the Earth. He possesses tremendous amounts of power, which is, for all practical purposes, limitless. The upper limits of Magneto's power can't be surpassed in any measurable fashion. Magnetokinesis. Magneto has comprehensive control over all forms of magnetism and utilizes that control to manipulate any metal and achieve a variety of effects. He recently proved able to effectively hold together the headless form of a celestial. Magneto can manipulate an entire planet's electromagnetic field and once even pulled back the giant metallic bullet where Kitty Pryde was trapped inside, which was at least a few light years away from Earth, though these are tasks that require great effort on his part. Magneto's power is comparable with Phoenix's. He has harnessed magnetism to stop armies, raise islands from ocean floors, move mountains, change the course of rivers, and threaten to devastate the world with floods and earthquakes. Magneto once blanketed the entire globe with a self-generated electromagnetic pulse that caused widespread devastation. Moreover, he can use his magnetic powers in more than one way simultaneously. He can completely assemble a complicated machine within seconds through his powers. It is unclear whether Magneto's power is psionic or purely physiological in nature. Magnetic force fields. Magneto can create magnetic force field around himself to protect from enemies' attacks. These barriers are generally invisible, but he almost always has them active even when out of combat. Magneto is able to create force field to protect him against the might of superhuman combatants, such as Thor with Mjolnir, Hercules, or Spider-Man in power by unipower. In one occasion it was able to stand the combined blows of Thor and She-Hulk at the same time. Magneto's shields are able to withstand the detonation of severe nuclear warhead at ground zero. He was able to create a barrier strong enough to withstand the energy blast from Cyclops, Spider-Man in power by unipower, Havoc, Iron Man, Doctor Doom, and it was able to block an energy blast from the Russian cannon, designed to punch through planets. He can also block a blast from a wilder and barbaric Phoenix. His force field can protect him from extreme heat like lava, fire of Human Torch, thermal blast, not even Ghost Rider Hellfire can't, and also blocked hotter than the sun plasma rounds. Magneto can even travel in space in a bubble of breathable air maintained by a constant surrounding force field. Magnetic armor. In addition to the obvious external force fields, Magneto can reinforce the metallic fibers of his uniform with magnetic fields, making his clothing like armor with a durability approaching adamantium. With this ability, he can resist punches from opponents such as Namor or Colossus and remain conscious. Magnetic rays. Magneto has the ability to shoot powerful rays and electromagnetic pulses and has shown this ability to destroy both metallic and non-metallic objects. Magneto can also use this ability to seriously injure his enemies as he did with Storm. He also one-shot Iron Man, destroyed a mountain, and cracked Holocaust's armor. Magnetic flight. Magneto is capable of sustaining flight for very long distances and at varying speeds. Apocalypse, through attempting to replicate Magneto's power in Mystique, mentions Magneto interfaces with magnetic field lines in his immediate surroundings rather than along it. This was later confirmed by Beast and later Sinister, who formed a temporary alliance to snap Mystique out of Apocalypse's influence. However, in order to travel in space, Magneto requires and is limited by the interior capacity of his force field to breathe. Geomagnetic link. Magneto's X gene plays an important role in mediating tactile perception to Earth's electromagnetic field. This trait remained even when rendered temporarily powerless by Lilandra. As it is affected, so is he. He knows instinctively all that happens to it. Gravity reduction. Magneto's control over the magnetic and electromagnetic force is so refined that he can shut off gravity within a limited radius of himself by reversing the polarity of the Earth's own magnetic field. Metal/matter manipulation. Magneto can perceive and manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Magneto also demonstrated the ability to indirectly manipulate non-metallic objects via metal ores they may contain. Magneto is also capable of creating powerful electromagnetic fields capable of moving and manipulating non-metallic objects, as well as levitating them. He can also do this via force fields. He can even perceive tachyons and a variety of antiparticles. Metal morphing. Magneto displayed the power to physically bond metallic substances to other elements at an atomic level. This newly developed technique allows Magneto to blend alloys to earthen, watery, gaseous, and even organic substances. Using such a technique was how he could commandeer the techno-organic physiology of Omega Sentinel with such relative ease. Organic iron manipulation. Magneto can control the traces of iron within organic matter and can manipulate the iron-enriched blood flow to one's brain to potentially induce very limited effects. There are only 2.5 grams of iron in the bloodstream of a healthy human body and perhaps a gram at most in the rest of the body. As a reference, a penny weighs 2.5 grams. Magneto has used his magnetic abilities to extract the adamantium bonded to Wolverine's skeletal structure. Electromagnetic sight. By concentrating, Magneto can perceive the world around himself as patterns of magnetic and electrical energy. He can perceive the natural electromagnetic auras given off by living beings. Electromagnetic spectrum manipulation. Although Magneto's primary power is magnetism, he can also project or manipulate any form of energy within the electromagnetic spectrum, having influences over the other forces, though he prefers magnetism the most. He can potentially shoot and absorb forms of electromagnetic radiation or energy, create intense heat as infrared radiation, and become invisible by deflecting visible light around his body. The electromagnetic spectrum includes visible light, radio waves, ultraviolet light, gamma rays, and X-rays. Magneto can project any of these. Electrokinesis. Magneto is capable of generating and projecting powerful bolts of electricity due to his manipulation over the electromagnetic spectrum. He is capable of absorbing bolts of lightning and projecting an electric aura around himself. Wormhole creation. Through an as of yet unknown application of his powers, Erik can open wormholes between 2 points in space and time in order to traverse the most impassable of distances almost instantly. Photokinesis. Erik can manipulate, generate, and redirect various fields of light as easily as he can bend metal to his will. Becoming invisible by bending it around himself, turning Dazzler's own luminary-based powers against her, creating holographic projections cast from over a world away and change laser trajectory. Dimensional awareness. Magneto was seen to sense a dimensional rift in the middle of a fight with the Immortal Man. Astral projection. Magneto has occasionally been said to be able to manifest an astral projection of himself. He was able to interact with Professor X. Telepathic resistance. Magneto has trained himself extensively for fighting telepaths, and is resistant to telepathic attack, even when unconscious. This training is similar to that given to the X-Men and New Mutants by Professor X, although the effects are further augmented with the aid of his helmet, see below, his strong will, and his own electromagnetic powers. Abilities. Genius intelligence. A mastermind. Magneto is a genius in various scientific fields. He is an expert in genetic engineering and mutation. He has created artificial living beings, mutated humans in order to give them superhuman powers, instilled genetic mind control, created adult clones of human beings, and manipulated the genetic structures of those clones during their development. His discoveries in particle physics would revolutionize the field and place him among the giants of scientific history if they were to be revealed. He has designed magnetically powered aircraft and spacecraft, space stations, an underground complex said to be a masterpiece of automated technology that would do Tony Stark or Reed Richards proud, complex robots and computers, magnetically powered generators, and machines capable of nullifying mutant powers within a radius of several miles. Skilled combatant. With several decades of fighting experience, Magneto is a skilled fighter. By increasing his physical stats with his powers, he can hold his own against Iron Man and defeat several men unarmed. Multilingual. Magneto is fluent in English, Arabic, French, German, Hebrew, Polish, Russian, Ukrainian, and Yiddish. Indomitable will, Magneto will strive to complete his goals, no matter what it takes. Weaknesses. Physical condition, Magneto's ability to wield his superhuman powers effectively is dependent upon his physical condition. When severely injured, his body is unable to withstand the strain of manipulating magnetic energy. When his powers are not at their peak, he also appears to have greater difficulty utilizing his magnetism for great feats. He is also susceptible to physical and mental fatigue that can ultimately affect his ability to adequately use his powers, especially if he overuses or extends them in a short amount of time. Headaches. As a side effect of the vast powers Magneto manipulates, he is prone to headaches. Paraphernalia. Equipment. Magneto's helmet. Magneto's helmet is built to shield his mind from psychic probes and manipulation. Armor. The costume that Magneto wears is a type of armor that he has created through the use of his magnetic powers. The costume is actually an amalgam of various lightweight but highly durable metallic alloys that further protect him from physical injury. He can also use different metals surrounding him to enhance his armor, making it as strong as Tony Stark's Iron Man armor. Weapons. Magneto relies primarily on his natural powers, although he has occasionally used magnetically powered devices he invented, such as his machine for inducing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions from afar. Magneto used to employ mechanisms for magnifying his own powers, but since his rejuvenation, he no longer needs them. Transportation. He is capable of flying under his own power, which he tends to do most of the time, also X-Men Blackbird, Magic, formerly various exotic aerial vehicles. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.